feels like they're being and actually what is the very best Penny said. We know it's all in.
Okay.
You know, is you might want to think about your costs. You start to say
that was on here and then I just select them.
Yeah.
They're on the list.
Yeah. But they just pick up all those folders from me, and it's
And if sometimes if it's
touch and stuff.
I think we just need to.
join.
Unless it's that one,
Yeah.
but on the other hand, it won't be together, the minimum flow hitting the current pool is going to be so high.
This is telling me that it's still not. I'm on out
Oh, you
and I can't,
can't get in.
no. He left us, well, he was probably a lieutenant colonel major, and he was seconded to treasury.
yeah,
Never came back to me.
yeah.
They never did.
No. Scotty,
I think we just
So
leave this
I'm
one.
telling you, he was a gun.
He's still good, actually. Selling.
Yeah. Not really often, but
Oh, I know.
We were overseas.
Oh, okay.
We were trying to have a Zoom chat with somebody
For the year.
at home.
That's the only.
And weekend, and we just couldn't work out.
That's right.
We just so frustrating.
He must have see it. Yeah.
A few years back.
It's just the timing, really.
Yeah, no, he's done really well. We lost, you know, I was surprised when he used to come to treasury. But then he didn't come back.
Yeah. Yeah. His something, yeah, Timothy must have had a union a couple of weekends ago, and he was showing me old videos of him, and can you make a
Well, they had a reunion for the Bosnian.
Oh, this is what he said.
Saskia, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys. It is showing as live from our end. I don't know if that means it is live.
Doesn't seem to be live online. That's the only thing. I just can't seem to figure out
And
why.
that guy sitting beside it looked like he's
Is there an option just for us to record it and pop the recording back up? The recording after the meeting? Is that an option?
Instead it is recording. So we could
We'll
load it up after the meeting.
Yeah, that might be the best thing if that's okay with the chair and the lead officer to do it that way.
As long as I'm not breaking any rules, I would like to keep going.
Yeah.
I know you're on a time frame today, Bruce. The other thing, can you invite Tamer Ali back into this meeting? We've lost Tamer.
She was online.
yes.
That's the same.
That's the down.
Well, look at here. Yeah,
We have the law, but payment been invited back into this one.
We've got, well, I don't even get three of us to be honest with you, so.
Yeah.
Sure.
And we've checked payment will join us, which sees, sit there.
Yes.
It's not giving one of us, but it doesn't.
Slow this happens.
Yeah.
Actually, be better to take public training. That's gonna be very, yeah, he's really into it. Like, I just, great, yeah, so, yeah. She does good. I just sent her a message, yeah.
Thank you.
It's there, yeah.
Good. I was about to.
Yeah, the same real thing, like, there's obviously she very into it.
She's got both. She's got both, but she runs off the HPs.
Oh, just see them, you know, show the kids, you know, because it's so cool, they're not used to initially. Yeah, and yeah.
They did good work.
Yeah.
Google.
Yes, they absolutely get it.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Google's doing a lot of work for us in the region.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So we've got.
So they stop.
That's right.
Yeah. So they do like.
Said a lot about under, she's some statutory water reform.
Oh, yes.
No.
Yeah, of course, it's Scotty.
Got through a lot of work. Well, he was appointed to DIA, wasn't he?
Yeah.
That's what I used to say.
I'm glad to say he's still in good work. So other clients as well.
So you're calling you now from Teams?
Yeah.
And Monday. I was telling you that she was saying that usually that you look the best, it's kind of a stuff to. Which was good. People doesn't do. She's so pretty, right? Yes, and that she's coming out. It's coming in. Because I think they're stuff. Yeah, that's good. Almost get lost in the Christmas also.
Oh, here we go. She's on Prime, clicking end and accept and it comes and then it just disappears. So she sent that, that's the picture she sent.
Restart or like, yeah.
Yeah, we've been like accepting that.
Yeah.
If we continue on, she just keeps trying or.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to go to say which one. Yeah.
Thank you, Tracy.
That's all right.
Rightio, folk, I wonder if we could just call people to order. Just, there is still a bit of techno stuff going on, but I think, thank you, that it makes sense that we just do carry on. Saskia said I was under pressure. I do need to go to Christchurch this evening, but, I've got a meeting at 2:30, you'll be pleased to know, so she's meant to be out here by 2:30, if that's okay. I'll probably be in a car drive because of my flight. So we can go to, the paper on policy, on the policy and strategy register. And I guess, oh, Alex, down there, isn't it? That's right, I was trying to remember, it's Amelia, that's right. Yep, we're all good, Alex, go. In your hands, please.
Yes, nice and quickly, we were at 89.52% last time I reported. We slipped to 86.5. That's largely the pressure of doing that 2-year long-term plan that you're seeing prepare. Our cumulative risk expiry, despite several policies swapping over, has remained at 4,036 days. I did the math a few times, so it's accurate. I'm not sure why. We currently don't have a target for that, but we are just aiming to bring it down over time. And looking ahead, I'm really expecting us to stay the rest of 2024 at similar figures and start moving packaging early next year when 3 of those regulatory policies come into depth.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Right, folks, do we have questions for Alex about our current state of play? I hadn't know how to deal with 44,000 days. It's a really interesting number, by the way. So well done at the end of the day. What to me is actually which is critical. So happy that we look down our the list that has actually our name against it, but I also had a look at the list of others. And would it be fair to say, Alex, and you're welcome to challenge me on my statement, that we seem to have most things in hand? In other words, if the policy is overdue, the world isn't going to fall in. And I want to be very careful on saying that, because it actually is not a signal that I'm happy that we're overdue. Okay, but I'm just wanting to reflect realism on the ground. Does this affect us? Is this potentially hurting us in that way? Generally, that would be the case. Is that correct?
I believe so. That's the reason why we've got those 2 targets in there, that we can see they were ordered on the 90% we aim for, rather than the 100% that any policy advice would really secretly love.
Yeah. So what's that, Alex, is the EU that's concerning you at the moment?
There's none that are concerning me, and I was a little bit worried about the change to the long-term plan and making sure we had all the dotted lines and T's crossed. We've looked at that, and that will be extended appropriately. So I'm really comfortable where everything's sitting, and then there's a plan in place for things that need to be. My concern is probably the same as yours, is the length and expiry of some of those longer ones. The 3 waters policy that we expect to come out into date next year with the hiring of the new policy and planning manager, and that just leaves the pressure on the roading policy as we like to keep an eye on.
Right. Yes, that one had attracted my attention. Can I say the other one that's attracted my attention, given it's us, is the risk management policy and framework, which is on page 54. Look, I think as Saskia does some of her other work with Deloitte, etc., we want to have. I'm very interested to know where we're at with that more generally, because actually I'd like to make sentences up to date, but we need to probably have a broader debate about where we're at with risk management more generally. So I just would want to know that that's sitting there. So any other matter that people would like to note at this stage? If I've got it right, we've got a policy you want us to have a look at. That's a separate paper. Sorry, no, I'm just trying to get ahead of myself here. Is there anything else folk would like to raise at this point? Nothing's holding you up here, Peter, in terms of running the place?
No, because like I was just looking at the vehicle, and that sort of stuff. We've already implemented certain steps around vehicles and in terms of retaining them for longer, running them longer, that sort of stuff. So the things that we're actively doing in that sense of the final policy.
Right. Okay. That's good. Doesn't feel like there's a desire for any other comments, questions, no? Okay. Hello, do we actually have Tamer online? Yes, sir. Still, oh, good to have the back with Tamer. Okay, so the motion is that we receive the report. So the movement second, please. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Tracy. With the motion, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, it's carried. Thank you. I was keen to get to the staff conflict of interest one, because that was my next comment. Was the policy. So, what I really at this time is that you to speak to this one?
Yes.
Okay, in your hands.
Thank you. So this is a fairly short paper. As with any policy of this type, we reviewed it to make sure that it continues to be in line with best practice, that things do not change the intent of the policy or made any major sweeping changes. So really what we've done is tidied up the policy, ensure that it aligns with the Office of the Auditor General's guidance for interests and declaring those. And we've made reference to the fact that we now have a requirement for our conflicts of interest declarations to be updated annually. Previously, I think the policy just said regularly, but we do have a process in place now to make sure that that's done by all staff annually. And that's pretty much it for changes on the policy. So I'll take any questions.
Really? Comments, questions? I've got 4. Hopefully it won't take long a million, but just actually, by the way, I think you've got to keep it at that. I don't actually like the phrase conflicts of interest. I like talking about interests because actually I'm very conscious. I want staff, just as I do want councillors, to willingly, as we have to at the start of the meeting, be upfront about their interests. And it's only natural that we have interests, particularly through what our partners do or family members, or even possibly some of your employees do, which are all valid. And it's called life. And so putting conflict in front of it always worries me a wee bit that actually it has negative connotations. It's only negative if we don't deal with them right. So that's I'm looking for a paper that actually really does that. So with that in mind, I must confess your conflict of interest definition. You probably have grabbed this from somewhere if we on the big borrow and steal principle. And I appreciate it's conditional, but we say where an employee may be in a situation where an employee may be compromised. Well, I guess that's strictly a correct definition. I always like to start thinking that actually there are occasions where your interests may intersect with your role. It's more neutral. The question is, what do you do with it? So I've passed that on. I compromised automatically right at the start suggests that actually there's something wrong with actually just having the interest in the first place rather than how you deal with it. So I just put that there as a question of time. Page 69. The evidence, you get the examples. I've just got to find it here, sorry. I just wondered, I think under, under the policy section, I know we can't try and anticipate all situations where interest might come into play here, but I think we've focused a wee bit here on procurement. Absolutely key area, by the way, where interests can intersect. It needs to be noted. But I wondered whether there was a chance in a sentence to note, say, it could be when you're dealing with grants to community organisations, or it could be when you're dealing with tourism. You know, it only requires a staff member to have an Airbnb, or you automatically have the risk that something intersects there. I wondered whether in that section there was a chance to make it more general rather than the fact that it goes straight to the procurement. I'll leave that as a small matter. Page 70, by the way, this is my chocolate fish grammar. Look at the third bullet point under questions to ask. No, this is the second bullet point. Do I
A relative.
Okay.
Understand.
I think I've got that right. It doesn't quite read right.
You reckon?
I just you can tell me it is. Well, I didn't get school C's English, so it'll tell you a lot about my reading, Tim. Okay, and page 71. This probably is actually my key point, to be honest, Amelia. Where is it? It talks here about actually staff responsibilities. I would love a more positive statement that staff are encouraged to work with their manager, and their manager is committed to working with them in terms of an appropriate plan to mitigate the interest. Does that make sense? There's a wee bit of it's on the staff member, and it has to be the staff member starting off making the declaration and being aware of what the interests are and ensuring it doesn't do it. But if I've got it correct, we also want management to be willingly working with staff to make sure it doesn't cause a problem. So I'm just looking for the second step, management working proactively with staff to ensure it doesn't come in. I'll leave it as so it's really thoughts and principles there from me rather than necessarily particular notes. Any other thoughts, questions from folks? No? Okay, well, that's good to have it there. Who is it like 30 June you do the declaration? All staff members must make the declaration meeting?
So it was previously falling in line with the last declaration that was made, so staff weren't doing them all at the same time. But that's moving, and we need to confirm, because that's in the Elmo system, if that's
start of calendar year or financial year. I'm not sure what Kirsten said to me. Finding it so that we're all doing it at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm just not getting going on until we have the financial year.
Yeah. And is there one person responsible for the overall completeness of the register? In other words, everybody's declared, etc. I know it's not, I know I'm going beyond policy, but I'm just interested.
Yes,
You know,
there is. Yeah, there is our people and culture advisor,
Yeah.
lots after that.
Okay. Sweet, okay. Oh, that's good. Great to know. Okay, well, look, I've done all the talking, so I'm going to move the recommendation to receive the report and we recommend to council the revised interest policy is approved. Got a couple of comments from me. You'll edit on that or you won't. You're welcome to come back to me if it's not entirely clear. Well, I have a second to please. Thank you, Sally. I've got the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, it's carried. Thank you very much. Right, health and safety.
Good
Thanks.
morning, everyone. I will take the report as read and just give it a couple of updates. Mainly, the minute that I want to do and improvement numbers. Okay, so we're tracking along to meet the deadline. And that was in relation to getting some standard operating procedures. And ongoing purchasing of PPE, which we've been working away at. The biggest thing was getting the hazardous substance, which was the chemicals that they worked with, getting that tested, so we could get monitoring notification. So that's been done, and there's been no notable, nothing notable come back from that testing, and so that might be something that we were able to have as part of that improvement notice. So we're on track to our extension of the 17th of October. So I will be meeting with Logan tomorrow morning to get a rundown of the full report. Another notable thing was the investigation being finished with the incident with the dog control and control team member. What's come out of that was to complete the de-escalation training, and we've created some standard operating procedure documentation for that as well. And the implementation, we're looking at it of getting the loan worker app, which may help in some of those situations that occur. Also, another notable one was just the near miss at the Commonwealth Swim Centre. We're a member of the public notified WorkSafe. We've gone through and done a full investigation of that. There'll be some more scenario-based training, and it more was attributed to a younger full team members that work, and some refresher training as well. So that's been going on, and a quick note. That it's been fine, it's been closed. And I think that's all. Do you have any questions?
Thanks, Ruth. Appreciate that. That's really great. Very helpful report. So good questions, Louise.
Yeah, just on page 76 in the commentary of the near misses, there has been an increase in reports of observations which indicate, and then there was no less specific sentence.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if there was meant to be something else or. So that is page 76 of our papers, which looks, 76.
Second row.
Near reports, the second,
Right.
2 points right.
It's in the table. Near misses reported. Yes.
Which indicates fill in the
Yeah.
I made it bigger, maybe I need black this.
Would you like to?
Why do you think I was talking about coffee?
Good idea. I'm just not sure if there was something else that what it indicated.
Oh, I would assume, and it's assumption here, that more people are, with the increase in reporting, it's more people are taking, note of what's actually happening around their surroundings and actually reporting it. And it's a little bit of an assumption, but I presume that's what's happened. Increased awareness. Yeah, and the more that we're communicating and more people are understanding being able to report and given that training, that was start to report within the system in order to pursue it. So.
From a risk perspective,
Yes.
when we get near misses reported, what's the action that comes from it?
So it comes in through the system
Yeah.
and there's a report done. Safety and wellbeing advisor will go through and review the report and there'll be any recommendations we've done after that has been completed. Sometimes sometimes there'll be some actions that do come out of it and other times it's just some information that's come through the system. Depending on what it actually is.
Probably, Tracy, would have an expectation that that internally you have a policy on how quickly they turn around. In some cases, I do see the stats on, you know, the value of an EMS is that it's a lead indicator, not a lag indicator. So the event of crumble is past, you know, including lots of learnings, but it's past, whereas an EMS by definition is something that could have happened but didn't. And therefore it's it should be a really important thing. So there's a couple of things there that always interests me is actually if we have a culture of safe practice, is it easy for a staff member and do they feel enabled and empowered and are encouraged to report an EMS? It's really it's artificial, but I like to see the EMS reporting rather than decreasing for that matter. But then, of course, Tracy, coming back to your point, it's then critical that actually if a person says an EMS for whatever reason, that actually it gets reviewed quickly, which is the reason I say sometimes I see stats on how quickly does staff or council respond to reviewing the EMS and whether there's any actions that need to be taken as a result.
And reviewing them, like reviewing them, and although I haven't got a conversation, I'll be advisor at the moment, but I do actually have one of our committees that's working competitive administratively in here, and so it's part of the daily operations of the advisors to go in and check the BWare platform and have a look to see what's coming through, and we also get notification emails, so the advisor and myself will get a notification plus the manager if we've been observation that incident that comes through or there is actually an incident that's happened. So we get that as soon as it's been put into the BB system. So they're good checks and that comes through daily or even at the time, but we had a few times. And what I would say is I think that we've got a very strong a committee now. There's about 10 reps throughout the organisation. One thing that we've noticed over the last 6 months is they take it seriously, and they have. I would say it's one of the times where I've been able to stand back and see that they are really engaged in after every committee meeting. They're taking away the recommendations or actions and communicating it to their team or sending out emails. And we have just had a look at a lockdown procedure. And being able to embed that into our organisation straight away. The committee took it back to their team, sent it to them as a draft, and wanted comments around it. So that is showing me the level of commitment of the reps that are out there and engaging with the team.
Yeah. Chris,
You just triggered something that I was thinking about in relation to the lockdown procedure.
Yes.
Elected members, we don't go through a lockdown procedure. If we're on.
It's coming, Tracy.
Okay.
you're expendable, Tracy.
I'll just get out. But I'm just thinking,
Yes.
Yeah.
Could be the time that it's most likely to happen is when we're in this room.
very likely.
Yeah. And so what we've done over the last couple of months is we've consulted with Offset and they came and did a crisis resilience training session with myself and the team. And from that, we talked about all those vulnerabilities that we have, being able to panic button in the lockdown procedure. And we've got a recommendation of a draft lockdown procedure, which we're just trying to go through and finalise at the moment. And that came about from an incident that had been in the paper and our audit as well. When you sit back and reflect and go, okay, how would we lock down this building straight away if we even needed to? And that's progress from there.
Right.
And anyone can press the button. What we want to, I wanted to make sure is that no one had any fear of pressing the button. there's always that fear of like, do I press the button, is it? And really at the end of the day, all you're doing is locking down the building, so if nothing was to happen from that, you unlock the building again.
Yeah.
The sky's not gonna fall down.
If you need to think, you need to hit it, you need to hit it. It's the same with me for declaring an emergency. If I'm thinking about it, I probably need to.
Yeah. Well, we'll find people will be hesitant to it, it's a little bit. Like,
Well, it's a big
one,
step, isn't it?
triple one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do I, don't I? It's that same sort of.
But that's about bringing that threshold down for them, isn't it? That comfort level. It's not about what the government does, it's about their
Absolutely.
threshold of comfort around what they're doing on behalf of other people, more so than yourself. That's team.
So that will come in the training once we finalise the lockdown procedure. We'll have some training around our lockdown process and also drill it every 6 months, a little bit like the fire evacuation. So everyone's familiar with it. And
That's good.
yeah, and have confidence that if something does happen, we can do that.
Brilliant. Any other questions at this stage?
just for my own, Bruce, through you, my own education, 79, the lost time injury frequency rate is against a benchmark of 1.95. I'm right in presuming that's an external benchmark. It's not something we've set for ourselves and that it's industry standard. I just wanted to clarify. Thank you. That was all I.
And the notable one that we did have coming through last time was a team member at Pulse that he stood up and hurt their hip and took a couple of days off and we had our back and well again. So that was the one that we that
I can relate to feeling pain when you stand up. Seems to happen all the time.
Yeah, I can feel it. Get out of bed.
Not making light of what happened then, obviously.
Oh, Tamar has. Tamar, please, thank you. Welcome. Glad you're still with Tamar.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. A few technical difficulties with the millennial here. Just wanted to make one quick comment. Page 83, where it talks about the medical treatment injury with our animal control officer. Just wanted to correct, because no doubt hundreds of people will be reading this paper. Police was called in, a charge of assault was laid by the animal control officer. It was not. The charges are laid by police, and I just wanted to remove any indication that staff might be expected to make that decision for themselves. If they were in that situation, they would not be making that decision. And then the other one, the near miss from the Cromwell Swim Centre, which is obviously one of our biggest risks. I just wondered, the staff members that are on duty, are they all trained to the same level, or do team members have a higher, team leaders have a higher training level, recognising that most people don't know what their response will be until they're actually facing said emergency?
they're trained to the same level, Tamer, so it's a PLNZ certificate, sorry, that word wasn't going to come out right. And so it's a national standard, and what the pools have in place is that when a new crew member comes in and they need that training, they go through that in the first initial, month or so, and everyone's trained to that same standard.
Perfect. And I think that's an awesome idea to have more scenario-based training. Happy to provide some small children if you need some.
Children with nosebleeds as well. Yeah.
I actually had Tamar, you come very close to a question I had, which is, I totally take your point, Tamar. None of us know how we'll respond if we're faced with a situation.
Yeah.
Without this becoming too personal, is this a junior member of your crew or a team lead?
Junior.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can probably expect that. I was going to say it was a lead. You would hope that actually there was a level of experience there. Otherwise, we've got a deeper problem. Can I ask one question? Because I think it was at the same incident where the member of the public went straight to WorkSafe. Yes. Can you tell me why they went straight to WorkSafe and we did?
I can.
Yeah.
You look like you're about ready.
That's all right. I'll defer to you.
I believe, well, I know that they were a member that actually used to work for us, and does not anymore.
Okay.
And that went to work, so.
No, I'm just wanting to be us to be a proactive, employer and manager of health and safety. And I mean, if we had to go to WorkSafe, we should go to WorkSafe without, you know.
And I believe that.
It's interesting, swimming pools are, I can tell you other stories, which I can't for case of confidentiality. Swimming pools are very challenged, Peter. They should be keeping you awake at night, mate.
But
Sometimes it
are they
does.
core business anymore? I don't know.
So if you play that with me, mate, you've got a few pools around this place.
That's an LPP discussion.
For safety reasons.
After the investigation, I mean, actually, the whole scenario happened very quickly.
Yeah,
And so it was when, you know, like the action or reaction and the whole incident itself was a matter of seconds.
I think the continual training of the scenarios is probably the most important thing, because it's going to give confidence to those team members, and you can't, if you do it once every 6 months, or, you know, it's hard to keep up with it.
And it was a new team member, like I do.
And David's walked in at the perfect time, but inherently our pools, I mean, they are pool councils are high risk, so that's the number of accidents, but they are safer than our public waterways, lakes, rivers.
Yeah, that's a very good word.
And I would just like to note you know, the pool team themselves take health and safety extremely seriously, and they are one of our best you know, partners in notifying of incidents and accidents that happen, and they are into that system straight away. I've got to commend them for that.
I also think that the you know, just the education around the people that are supervising those children is critical as well, because it's the caregivers that are actually meant to be supervising those children.
So the caregiver was not actually too far away.
No,
We talked through this scenario.
Oh, to about the incident? Yeah. And I
take a seat at the table, mate. It means I can keep my eye on you.
just on that particular incident, I understand the caregiver was on the phone at the time too, and so just another reflection that we're looking at as we introduce the bans where our age range is higher than other pools, so you need to at least be supervised by somebody up to the age of 10 and within arm's reach of somebody, the kids up to the age of 5. And this particular incident, the child was 5 years and 3 months, I understand, so just outside of the within arm's reach. And so,
How
tough are we with caregivers on their phones or reading a book? Because I do see it all the time when I'm there with my mobile phone. It can't be easy for a younger staff member to go up and tell somebody, but it shouldn't be a please. It's a do, you know. Yeah, if you don't, you and your kid are out, because it falls back on us, and it's just not necessary.
Agree. Yeah, I think we're tough, and we're probably tougher again. And I think as well, just even more, we've done a lot of signage when you walk in and things like that. We could introduce more. And probably the other thing is, we have had a couple where they have got aggressive with the staff, and it's ended up on my table to call them and naturally back the staff. But yeah, it is something we could get more, I guess, stern with. It's just the amount of time that it takes as well. It's quite an investment to go and talk to somebody, to lifeguards take their eyes off the pool, to get a guard, another guard to come and watch their zone. There's a wee bit involved in it as well. So there's that balance.
It's
David, I just wondered, how much would it cost you to get a cell phone jammer for the pools so that just nobody could use anything while they're there?
Good idea. Oh, look. Sure.
He's the ex-policeman.
In fact, I'm conscious of time. I've still got a couple of folks to get through before Miles can speak. So that's really helpful, Louise. I look, a good report. I didn't want to deal with perhaps workplace stress and well-being, but I'll deal with that next time round. I'm hoping things are more positive with the employment situation, because I know here that employees feel more positive when they see a new team member come on board, and I'm just wondering how the employment situation is going, but that's a matter we can discuss later on. Thank you for your good report. Thank you. That's positive. about the culture. I look forward to hearing that. Recommendations that we received. Thank you, Tim. Do I have a second? Thank you, Tracy. I've put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, it's carried. Miles, is it okay if we just spend the next 20 minutes just getting through the next two papers? You're not inconvenienced by that?
That's fine.
Just keeps me in roughly good order. So we've moved to the long-term plan, and Saskia, are you still with us, or?
I am, yes, and ready to speak to this paper.
Go for it, Saskia.
So we're right back into the long-term plan again after starting it last year and then deferring it for the enhanced annual plan, as you're all aware. So we are making good progress on the long-term plan. It is going to be a very challenging long-term plan with the Three Waters debt situation and all those other costs coming at council. So we have had a couple of initial conversations with council, which is going through at a high level some of the budget areas and getting some early direction from council on those areas. The other key thing to update this committee, particularly the chair on, is the distributisation conversation of council last week, and council approving that all activities bar community grants will be funded at a district level. So that is a lot of work and conversations to go through. So that will take effect from 1st of July next year. So Paul and his team will be doing a lot of work around the Rating Act, and that conversation is coming up very soon with council on the 15th of October to start getting some direction. We've got a very complicated rating system here at Central Otago, and definitely that decision of council does enable the opportunity to probably simplify that. So we'll go shortly to council and ask for some direction and have a good conversation with them. But probably the main thing for the committee today is really to get direction around your involvement. So you do have oversight of the preparation of the long-term plan that is in the register of delegations. It isn't defined. I think that is really up to probably the committee and ourselves to define what that oversight does entail. So we have in the past had all the key policies and strategies come before this committee. Any sort of risk stuff, which obviously the financial stuff is going to be quite a challenge this time round, and in the past this committee has received, usually out of session just because of the timing, drafts of the consultation document and the full long-term plan. So I would be quite keen to hear from this committee if that still feels right, and what you'd like that to look like if not, but apart from that I'll take any questions.
Thank you, appreciate that, Saskia, and it's a good clear paper. So folk, key questions or comments. First thing is around what should be the role of the committee. That's the second paragraph of page 87, and then the second part is actually a more general comments, if at all, around the risks associated with the current plan. I've got one question there as well. So folk, do you have any thoughts, questions, comments? From you, Bruce? My view, Saskia, and thank you warned me about this, about what is the role of the committee, is actually I would want to ask what actually provides best support for council to go through this process. I'm quite comfortable with what's outlined there, including a bit of out of meeting work. I'm probably the only one in the room that actually isn't deeply involved. But the value of somebody of a committee like this, including the independent, is that you've got an external view. So in terms of the second paragraph, I would have said tick to that personally, because it is as critical a document as your annual report, and it does involve ultimately the auditor, and it's not the logical that there be an involvement of the committee. So I personally was comfortable, but I would want to ensure that that is adding value in supporting council that goes through this long-term plan. So I put that there on the table. Is there any thought or comment or reaction that people would like to raise? No?
Sounds sensible.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Are there any comments then about the project plan timeline, or indeed at this stage, Saskia, are there any things that create uncertainty on the timelines? Because I've argued before the timeline is critical, which is essentially shy of the public consultation, you get this nailed by Christmas, more or less. It's not quite there, but given you're also doing water, I'm worried about bandwidth of all of you folk. I just wonder if there's any questions here.
First, I think it's tight, but obviously I've looked at it a lot and I can't see how we change that. These are big jobs and
Yeah.
they don't get bigger. So I'm always nervous that it's just going to take one thing to go wrong and things get very squeaky, but that's pointing out the problem, not the solution, because I don't have a solution. So we just have to be conscious of that, particularly councillors. But you know, these workshops are crucial. We've had very good turnouts from most of them, from people who are all in full-time employment, which has been great. But the going's not going to get any easier.
No, that's a salient point.
Well, for them.
Just a
That's
quick
bloody
in
big
relation-
crowd, aren't you, mate? You go a lot.
And this is possibly more a procedural matter as opposed to a risk, is there has been some noise from the community in relation to consultation periods for other things that we've done. And dare I say it, I wonder if there is a way to give people a heads up to say this is coming. I mean, we talk about it all the time around this table, but the rest of the community, for whatever reason, sometimes they don't pick things up until the last minute. And I don't know whether it's something that we could do better. And I know that, but I'm just wondering if, so that we can try and eliminate people saying, oh, you haven't given us enough time, which has been a criticism of us. So I don't know whether that's something we can look
Yes,
at. I don't know.
We absolutely can, Tracy. So I've got a meeting coming up with our comms team, our great comms team that support us with all of this around sort of the look and feel of the consultation document. I think that's in the diary for next week. So I've taken a note of that and I can discuss with that. I'm absolutely sure, don't know if Dylan's in the room, but I'm confident that we could do some early comms once we sort of know our dates a bit more firm, that it's coming up, and by that stage there would have been conversations, there would have been papers up to council, and we can give the community a bit of flavour of the kind of things that they're likely to see in the consultation document. So I'm confident we can do some heads up there.
Cool, thank you.
So do you think like February would be a good time frame for that? Because I'm thinking people get so absorbed in getting to the end of the year and Christmas and then holidays, and then if we gave them like all of February to kind of give them the heads up that it's coming in March, so that it's not too far away, but it's kind of giving them some direction.
Absolutely, because council won't actually be really sort of endorsing the consultation document to, when will I be writing it, sort of over the Christmas, New Year, sort of early next year period. I'll be finalising it with the comms team. Finalising the draft. And it might be at that point that council still, giving us some direction on that. So definitely February is a good time because that's when Audit New Zealand is scheduled to be doing the audit. So we pretty much have to have everything ready by mid-February. The current plan has us consulting mid-March to mid-April. So yes, we can definitely work in that time frame, Sally.
Any other thing I'd add, Bruce, for me, is I know workshop 7 in the council report talk about the consultation document. I think we need to have in workshop 7 Corretto on not just the document, but how we're going to handle the consultation, because we did drop-ins with the annual plan, we did public meetings with the distributisation, we've started doing online ones, which actually work well for the distributisation. So just, what's the process we're going to undertake? What's likely to work best? And it was probably in the contemplation, just not in the wording of that workshop 7.
Noted, yep.
Good advice. Because I was actually thinking, Sally, the relatively says you'll never have the crowd ready on time, Tracy. But I absolutely agree with the sentiment of what you're saying. So you do it. In that sense, sometimes I think you do it more than you do less. And actually, potentially out of that December meeting, you got your first chance, even though it's, hey, you've got Christmas, but in the new year, we'll come to talk to you probably around these areas, let alone February.
Yeah.
And what you're saying, Tim, what are the various means and modes of communication to make it real for people? I'm almost going to say, without overgeneralising, you almost can't have too much comms to the community about what's in front of them.
Yeah.
Out of interest, all our workshops have been broadcast live up online.
Yeah.
And but advertised, and so that's the first.
Yes.
From
Good point. Yes.
previous-
Good. Thank you, Mr. Ombudsman.
Congratulations.
Yes, that's right.
It's fine.
Hasn't done us any harm.
No, it's good. I think it's a good thing.
And even I think the AMP show's been previously, I remember going to an AMP show where we talked about the long-term plan, because you get a lot of cross-section of your community at the AMP show. I remember that we did that.
Okay, I think I think you're hearing here, Saskia, that there's a committee, but I think actually your elected members are very keen. We have an established program. It sounds like, I think you said within the next week or two, you're catching up on actually what that program would look like. It's not necessarily a thing for this committee because our next one is too late for that, but I suspect somewhere you want to talk with council a wee bit about actually how are we going to have an evolving communication strategy around this whole document and making it one that people feel they're being consulted on, which is a really good sentiment. Okay, that's good. Any other matter that creates uncertainty? We're already talking about people's time. Got to get councillors to hold workshops, staff capacity to deal with this. Saskia, you haven't raised anything in that area at the moment, so I presume at this stage, from a project perspective, things are trucking on okay.
Yeah, it is tight, as the Mayor has pointed out. Definitely unforeseen circumstances, a resignation or the like would throw a spanner in the works, but we'll just work that through. That the team are working hard to get the draft budgets all sorted, so that we can have a sort of a number conversation with council. We are working on all the directions that council gave us around the refinements, and as I indicated earlier, the policy grant work's just about to start. So I'm feeling it's a lot of work, but I'm feeling that we're in hand at the moment.
Great, good news. Okay, so with that, thank you. And I think in receiving the report, I just want to remind members, I've sort of had my say, but in effect, we're actually endorsing there's a slightly broader role here for the committee, and we're accepting an obligation to help support you guys get the whole thing through. So I'll move from the chair that we receive the report by oversight, please. Thank you, Tracy. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, it's carried. Thank you. Gift and hospitality register, we're almost there, Miles.
Back to me again. Take this paper as read, very straightforward paper. So under the sensitive expenditure policy, this committee is meant to have oversight of the gift and hospitality register. Obviously, we're a public organisation and things like this should be very transparent. So this come to light with Amelia's renewal of the sensitive expenditure policy. So we have made sure we are complying with this policy and doing what it said we should be doing, which is an annual oversight of this committee of the gifts that have been accepted. There is a threshold of $50, as you see in the paper there. So pretty straightforward. So I'll take any questions.
So this focus is really a question about policy exists. Are we happy with our settings? Any questions or comments folk would have about actually how the policy, this is actually how the policy has been implemented. Is any questions or comments folk would have on this? Meets your meter band, meets the 20-page test?
The one, if I may, Bruce, for me is when we had a zero, you had to declare everything.
Yeah.
I'd get calendars and so forth. It was just a bureaucracy, just a waste of time. So I think the $50 is about right. Sometimes, and I note on my Z&C cherry one there, I talk about a Chinese doll, spoon, fork and chopsticks set. I have absolutely no idea what they were worth, but also note they should have had dinner in there as well, which is why, because I don't think they would have reached the $50 value with all due respect, but I seem to have missed dinner there. But those are the sort of things that, if take the dinner out of that, I would have declared it because I wouldn't be too sure. So I think people still need to, with those, it's easy to get 2 bottles of wine and go, yeah, I know what they're worth. I can look at them, but some of those gifts that do come, I think, err on the side of caution, and I can see that's been done by some. So that's good. Okay. And I take it, by the way, these gifts were accepted by the individual for their personal use. Yeah.
Sometimes it's personal use, and sometimes, there's an example in here if I have a look, that it's shared amongst the team. I think there were some bottles of wine that were shared amongst a bigger team. Yes, and we had some gift baskets that were supplied to information services that were shared, just put out for everybody. So it's not the manager makes the decision, the GM makes the decision, but it's usually not the apart from the mayor, it's usually shared at an more of an organisational level if we do accept them.
Okay, that's good. There we go.
But the mayor's are more a personal invite. Sorry, Mr. Mayor. More meant that you get like you can't really share a ticket or a dinner. We often will get bottles of wine or gift baskets is probably the difference there.
Okay, that's fine. And look, and it is good, particularly if it's shared. I think like that on as you have for a couple of occasions there. I think that's quite relevant. Okay, any other questions or comments folks would like to raise over this? That's not the case, or sorry, if there are no more comments, we're obviously comfortable. So I'd like to move the report. Thank you, Tracy, seconded by Tim. Put the motion, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, it's carried. Well, our staff presenter has turned up, Saskia. Do I turn straight over to Miles, or do you?
Yes, absolutely, Mr. Chairman. That's pretty straightforward. I think probably more is the interest to hear from our Treasury consultant, and Miles is in the room. We do have an update on those swap rates, so I'm going to hand it over to Miles, who I understand has a presentation, and hopefully, Nest, you have that ready to go as well. So I'll hand it to Miles.
Welcome, Miles. It's always good to see you. It is when we talked on the phone. You were well received last time. I've got no reason to believe it'll be anything different now. So in your hands, Colin.
Actually, I was told there was another council I was presenting to. It was on Teams, actually. It was, and I was told later that either the mayor or the CEO said that I was rather blunt with my assessment of the Reserve Bank and the abilities of Adrian Orr. So I hope I haven't come across as too negative with that.
We like blunt.
Now I've got Saskia, I've got the September quarter report. We actually managed to get it out yesterday or the day before, so it was as at 30 September. Is that on the presentation as well? And sorry, that's a separate document, or have we just got this one?
We just have this one, but what we can do, Miles, if you'd like, is circulate it to committee members. But what I did have your latest update was the 30th of June was attached to the presentation that went out. Sorry, the report that went out. So this is obviously an update on that. Is that okay, Miles?
Sorry, in my haste, I must have put the 30th of June one on instead of 30th September. I was trying to get it out before I got here. That's fine. You can just circulate that later. The important points actually are in this presentation anyway. So I'll just go through the presentation. Mr. Chairman, Bruce.
Call me Bruce, please.
Yeah. How long would you like me to speak for?
I would like us to take a break at 11:30, and I don't want to cut you too short.
No,
there's a couple other matters I could probably get through if I had a chance. 20 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot has happened since I was here last in March. Clearly, interest rates have come down. This chart here is the US 10-year bond rate and the New Zealand 10-year government bonds going back 3 years. You can see that they've come back off the peak that we had in October last year, and even the peaks that we had earlier this year. And that's because interest rates went up because of inflation. And inflation was driven by COVID. It's gone back.
I'll just use the paper. Yeah.
So inflation has declined, and it's enabled central banks to start easing interest rates. They started in Korea and also in Sweden, but now the whole multitude of central banks have started easing rates, including our own one, somewhat surprisingly in August. I'll come to that later on, but we obviously have seen the peak in rates. I mean, it's just been a little bit of a spike up, and the actual reason why the US bond rate went up was not last week, the week before. They cut the Fed funds rate, same as our OCR, our official cash rate, and they cut it by 50 points, which was markets were sort of hoping for it, but not totally expecting it. So they got as much as they hoped for, but actually pushed interest rates up, which is counterintuitive. And the reason for that is that you probably all heard the same buy the rumor, sell the fact. Well, when they actually did cut, they priced it and they pushed them up, but they had come back down again. And part of that is to do with what's happening in the Middle East. But I think the important point of that is you can see from October last year and even this year, the rates are quite a bit higher. And so that's the US in red, New Zealand in black, New Zealand and West trade. We usually trade it up in the US. The next one. And these are the expectations for monetary policy in the various jurisdictions. New Zealand, which is in the black, the US, Australia and the Eurozone. The solid lines are where the official rates are, and the dotted lines are the projections, the market's projections for interest rates. These are short-term interest rates, and it shows that, you know, we're in definite downtrend. And in New Zealand, those numbers on the right, actually, I think I've explained it before, it's a wee bit complicated, but what it's saying is that the OCR is going to fall to, or by November, it's going to be definitely at 4. Well, according to the market, it's factoring at 100% chance it'll be at 450 by November. That's 2 meetings away. So we've got one next week and then one in November. So that's 75 basis points, 0.75% of interest rate cuts, which is pretty significant. And they're expecting it in the US as well. And in Australia, so not much so much. The next one. This is the NZIE, New Zealand Institute of Economic Research, and the ANZ one as well, quarterly survey of business opinion and the ANZ Business Confidence Index. So the QSBO, the NZIER survey is in the dark blue, and the ANZ Business Outlook survey is the lighter blue. We hear all this negativity at the moment about how bad the economy is, and I don't normally highlight it. And I don't sound too negative sometimes, but we've had a huge rebound. I mean, you can see that it's below the line for quite some time. But we've had a huge rebound since the monetary policy statement came out in August, because, as I said, it was a slightly unexpected 25 basis point cut. The markets weren't really expecting it. And it's made a huge, it actually has made a significant difference to forward indicators. Now, it's still not good because we're below zero. Well, we are for the QSBO, the ANZ one is quite different. But they've both turned up quite a bit. So what I'm thinking at the moment is that while we're in a reasonably difficult place as far as the economy goes, I mean, the forward indicators, and this is looking forward really to, it gives an indication of how things are, because they get asked, how do you see business activity over the next 12 months, 2 years? So it actually has turned up quite a bit. And I'm hoping that it's going to be positive for next year. But they still have reported decline in the September quarter, but only 2% of firms are expecting that decline to continue. And price pressures are easing as well. Now, the next slide is this is another sort of quite encouraging one, and this data has picked up markedly since August. Since the August MDs is the monetary policy statement. It's just high frequency activity data. And you've got ones like heavy traffic index, retail electronic card spending, house sales, seek job ads, Auckland International domestic takeoff weight, which is a really obscure number. That's the weight of the aircraft taking off from Auckland Airport.
How much people
Purchasing managers index, purchasing services index, the ANZ own activity on us, pretty busy graph, but you can see that just about all of them. I think it's actually the takeoff weight is the one that's actually declined. And that's what domestic airfield.
Yeah.
People are not flying as much, although they're not flying away, but basically aircraft seem reasonably full, and the prices of the charging are high.
I can assure you the flights into Chicago was always full.
Oh, the one that just cut.
Yeah, just cut.
Yeah, same as the breakfast one.
Something at night from Wellington is always full.
Strongly worded letter going from me to
Good on you.
the Ministry of New Zealand today.
Can I count some?
But
I'll leave my weight on.
what I quite like looking at is the heavy traffic index that shows, the blue one, which shows a significant move up, and that has these data collection points at various strategic points around the country, which measures the movement of heavy traffic. And it's always a good indicator of, how the economy's going. So you can see that just about all of these are turning up, which again is another positive. Is another positive for the economy. We're still going to have problems, but I just think that again, it's an indicator of that 2025. That we may be at the point of the low point, but 2025 will get better. So I'm thinking there's good news, but here and now, and just the next slide, please. Now, the bad news is that unemployment is rising, and that's to be expected, as we have gone into a recession, and it's projected to get worse. It's projected to go over 5%. And it's not helped by the public sector job cuts. Wellington, they say, there's a bit like a ghost town in the CBD. It's a lot of disgruntled public servants that, losing their jobs and coming back of the civil service. But in the last week, we've had Smithfield and Timaru, the freezing works, announced the closure, 650 jobs. Rural Pavey District Council or client, they had a mill closed. There's 300 jobs. There's 300 jobs in Rural Pavey, which is it's not a particularly high socio-economic area, is pretty grim. And Handpack and Hawke's Bay, they've just cut full production at the moment, and they'll have a decision on that. So, and even smaller businesses are struggling. So that's one of the bits of bad news. The next one is GDP. Now, this is slightly interesting. What it's saying is that it's the GDP on a quarterly basis. And what we're saying here is a triple-digit recession like this going to graph. So when GDP is below zero, for 2 consecutive quarters, it means we're in a recession. And last year, so here's zero. We had 2 consecutive quarters of it below zero, so we're in a recession. Then we came out of it for a quarter, and that was the March quarter, the June quarter, 23. Then we went back into it, so here's the second recession. Then we came out of it for March quarter. Now this is the June number. We don't get the September number till December, so we've had 1 quarter of it negative again. Now, if we get another negative, which we expect, we're back in recession. So that's a triple-dip recession, and that's very unusual. And we might have had that in the GFC, but you can expect 2 recessions. The only good thing is that the June quarter GDP data, which came out about 3 weeks ago, Reserve Bank were expecting -0.5, it came in at -0.2. I don't think this quarter is going to be any better, so I think we will go back into this triple-dip recession. Which is pretty unusual.
What should we read into that, if anything, how unusual is it? Is it just we're sort of skimming above and below the surface and we shouldn't worry too much? Or could it be indicative of that's where we're going to sit for quite a while? That's really polishing your crystal ball, but I don't know.
I think we'll have another negative print for the September quarter. New Zealand, I think I've said before, New Zealand's the last country in the world just about to get its GDP number out. It's the 3rd week in December to get it out. So we can't get it out until virtually the end of the next quarter. I'd be worried about it if it wasn't for some of those previous indicators that I just showed, that showed, with the survey, the quarterly survey of business opinion and, this heavy truck index and the domestic takeoff bodies. Seen that pretty obscure. But I'm hopeful that we're at the worst and that things are going to get better next year.
Okay, that's good.
And this is now, actually, I'll finish with the bad news. So this is the inflation rate. It's down at 3.3. It's down at 3.3%. The Reserve Bank mandated to keep it between 1% and 3%. we get the data out at the end of October for the September quarter, and that's going to drop it back to within the 1 to 3% band. And it could drop it quite a bit. Now, the number that drops out, so this is an annual figure, so the September quarter of 23 will drop out and will be replaced by the September 24 quarter. The September 23 quarter showed a 1.8% increase in inflation, which is huge. That number will come out. Now, even if it goes down to 1, inflation in the September quarter, it's going to bring it back to, what, 2.5-ish, 2.4, 2.5. I think the Reserve Bank is projecting 2.3 by the end of the year. September traditionally is September quarter is traditionally quite a high number, It's going to be a lot higher than 1.8%. Ironically, one of the reasons is that it takes account of the increase in local body rates from the 1st of July, which always happen in that third quarter. I know it's going to be increases, but it's some of the other factors as well. But inflation's been, it went up because of COVID. It's now coming back down. It's taken some pretty extreme measures to get it down here, but it is looking pretty positive. Next one. Now, here's the fall in interest rates that we've had. So the solid red line is the official cash rate. The black line is the 90-day bank bill rate, and the blue line is the 5-year swap rate. Now, what's interesting about this is that normally short-term rates are lower than long-term rates. So long-term rates are usually higher. When you've got short-term rates here that are higher than long-term rates, it's called an inverted yield curve. We've only had one twice since the year 2000. The other one was in the GFC. I might be repeating myself here. It's an illustration of it. What it is, it's symptomatic of the fact that the economy A is going to be a recession, and B, that interest rates are going forward. But what happens is that the 90-day rate, sorry, the OCR is dictated totally by the Reserve Bank. The 90-day rate, as you can see, is very closely correlated to it and normally trades above it. But even the 90-day rate now is below the OCR because the OCR is at 5.25, the 90-day rate's at 4.87. So it's below it. So it's preempting the cuts. But what preempts the cuts even more is this 5-year swap rate. So it's totally dictated by the market. It's got the Reserve Bank can't influence what that rate is. And you can see it's significantly below it. And this will continue. Now, I'll come on to the relevance of that with regards to you in a minute. The next one. These are the OCR forecasts. Now, there are different forecasts. You have a Reserve Bank forecast, you have bank economist forecasts, and then you have the market forecasts, which all vary, but you can see that they're all declining. The expectations for the official cash rate. These have actually been, I did these slides on today, Thursday, Tuesday, and I think there's been a change even yesterday. BNZ have come out and are expecting, Westpac, who weren't expecting too many cuts, are now coming out and saying in October there'll be 50 basis point, 0.5 cut in October and November. So that's 100 points in 6 weeks, which is pretty significant. But the expectations for them vary between it going down to 3.5 to, which one is it? BNZ are expecting it to fall to 2.75. So, the banks and the Reserve, and believe it or not, the Reserve Bank, are pretty much in unison here. So it's going to be reasonably consistent and cuts for a while. What the banks are actually doing now is they're saying it's going to be sharper and quicker, but not as elongated as what they previously thought. And they say that's only really happened yesterday since they did the report. The next one. Now this is relevant because when it comes to how to strategize with interest rates, since the OCR came in 1999, there's been 5 rate cut cycles, so they've dropped rates in 5 different times. The very big one was the GFC when they cut by from 8.25 to 2.5, 575 points of cuts. Then we had one where it just went from 575 to 5. That's when 0.75 when the bank basically got it wrong and they started cutting and they started tightening. The other 3 were two were for 175, and one was for 150. This cycle, if we're right, we think that there's probably 2% to 2.5% to 2.25% and maybe 2.5% of cuts. We were at 550. So say there's 2% of cuts, that takes you to 350. If there's 2.25% of cuts to 5, that is 325. So we think that rates, if you can lock in future rates, that's sort of 3.5%, around 3.5% or under, then that's going to be pretty advantageous for you. That means you come to, when you put your borrowing margin on top of it, it's around about 4%. And I'll show the numbers of that in a minute. So we don't think it's obviously not going to be an outswell, not going to be an outsized cut like we had with GFC. That was very exceptional. But I think because we went up so quickly and so much, that there'll be more than the 170, the 150 and the 2 175s. The next one. Now, this is Central Otago's debt and cover profile. So these are debt at 30 million. And the green is the interest rate swaps, which were the two interest rate swaps that we took out this last week, wasn't it, South here?
Yes, correct. Yep. Yes. So yes, sorry. Yes. So that was all sorted Monday, wasn't it, Miles?
Yes, we've waited until the very partially because I've been on holiday. But also I wasn't too concerned about doing it beforehand because interest rates were coming down and it proved to be advantageous. So we got additional fixed rate cover for you, which is indicated by the green. 10 million of interest rate swaps around about 3.5%. It meant that you became policy compliant as well. But that's the here and now, and that's good. But you've still got, there's still lots above the, well, there's the green line above the blue and then the green line where the shade, where the coloured bits come in, that's where there's the ability to take more fixed rate cover within the bands. I'll explain how the bands work. Explain you sort of know.
Explain it again.
Yeah, we can never hear these things enough.
We operate within a policy band and we have minimum and maximum levels of fixed rate cover based on your debt level. So 30 million, the grey area is debt as at 30 September. The red lines, where you have three different bands, 0 to 2 years, which is a show. That's the minimum level of cover that you should have, and that's the maximum. So 0 to 2, it's a minimum of 40, a maximum of 100%. So we can go up to there. In 2 to 4 years is the minimum of 20, either 20 or 25. They vary some sort. I can't quite remember, and that's a maximum of 80% up there. And this one, you don't have to have any fixed rate cover, but you have to have a maximum. You can only have a maximum of 60%. And this, so these are these interest rate swaps that we did. These are the fixed rate bonds that we've got. This, this is the fixed rate cover that you've got at the moment. This is just your underlying debt that you've got here. This is the trust of debt. Don't worry so much about that. Now, if you just go to the next slide, what we're looking to do is do 2 more interest rate swaps. One, if we started in October 24, going to October 29, the rate yesterday was 356 on Tuesday. And if we started another one in October 25, going to October 30, it's 357. So again, this is the 350. And this is what it would look like with these swaps. Again, this is giving an all-up cost of funds of about 4%, which is a big difference to what we're doing at the moment. The interesting bit about this is that we can model this on your future debt. And I think, Saskia, is that right, that you were going to 48 million by June 25?
No, it's a wee bit higher than that. Currently predicted if we were to do all our CapEx program, and I see both Donna and Paula here, they'll get a better, closer number than me. It's closer to the closer to 80 million, 70 to 80 million. Is that correct, Paul? I might have to jump in and help with the number.
Yeah, we're looking at 80 million odd this year, and we will be looking at more than that in the next financial year. So we'll be getting closer to our debt caps than we had budgeted for.
It's quite a big jump, I think, from what I've been hearing. I thought I had a figure of 48 million in mind by June next year.
Probably won't actually end up with all of the three waters capital projects being delivered within this financial year. I would imagine it'll be probably down at least 20 million on that. So maybe this.
When we get the, I mean, I know you go through the budgets at the moment, when we get the revised numbers, we can, under the policy, not just hedge this, but we can actually take into account future debt, and that will give us the ability to hedge more debt. And I think it's a really good thing to do that. We've got the discretion to do it, either use that or that. We have to be certain as to that debt will, well, reasonably certain that debt will eventuate. And there is the unknown of the three waters. Oh, it's not, was it? Local water done well now. There is the effect of that. So when we have some clarity around it, we can probably future-proof you even to an even greater extent than what you've got now. And because interest rates are low, that they're going, and at the moment, I say these 3.5%. I mean, the best thing I could probably do for you is to guarantee you, a lower interest rate compared to the ones that you've got, going out in some years. So the next one now here is the really good news, I think. Your cost of funds at 30 September was 554, so that's down from 591 now. I've explained to Bruce that you did have a very high cost of funds, one of the highest that we did, but purely and simply the reason for that was that you only really got the debt when interest rates were going higher. You weren't able to take advantage of the low rates, whereas other councils with, ones that, closer to 4 have had legacy debt and they were able to take advantage of the lower rates. But so the projected one is, your cost of funds here is 5.54. What have we got down to? Projected fall to 4.66 by June 25, 4.6 by June 26. By June 26, 4.28. By June 66, 60, 428, then going down to 413 by 28. But if your debt goes up and we hedge future debt, these numbers will come down because you will be getting more debt at a lower rate, which will bring the average rate down. Now you were at 6, as I say, you were at 6%. Well, if you're coming down to 4% and you're going to have 80 million of debt, so 1.6 million a year in interest rate savings compared to what they've been. But that's not my doing. That's the market's doing. But we deliberately avoided having a lot of fixed rate debt earlier on. I know it's cost you in the it's cost you in the short term, but I'm more concerned about the medium to long term. It's short term pain for long term gain. So those are the slides.
And we'll get them sent to us.
I can get them sent to you, and I'll get proper September reports sent to you as well. The one thing I didn't say was the Reserve Bank, that last night I was pretty critical of them because of what they did in May. I'm still a bit surprised that they couldn't see what was happening in May, but in July they did a big U-turn and they indicated that while they didn't drop the cash rate, the OCR, they did indicate that things had changed. And then in August, against most market expectations, they actually, they'd been projecting in May, they projected the first cut in the OCR in the fourth quarter of 2025. Within 3 months, they've turned around and they're cutting in August 24. And they said it was the data change. Now, one of our clients, his sister, is on the Reserve Bank Monetary Policy Committee. I saw him in the street and I just said, that's a big U-turn from the Reserve Bank. Oh, no, he said, they always said it would be data dependent. So the data had changed between March and August, but what surprised me is that everyone, other than the Reserve Bank, could see what was happening to the economy. And there was no sort of emphasis on what the forward indicators were. I mean, I just wonder, do they go out and sort of assess what the sentiment is, or do they just purely look at the data? And as I've said, data is historical. It's not forward looking. So that's probably my criticism. But look, good on them. In August they changed their mind. And you can see the difference that it's made in sentiment. So
Thanks for that. Well, what I'm picking up from this is a couple of things. One is the most immediate need that we have corrected our position around our fixed position, which is good. The other thing is the strategic move to reduce the overall cost of borrowing through the action that you're proposing to take with Saskia, which makes sense. I think the other thing which may be important clearly out of this is a wee more information your way about our future debt needs. Although I do take on board your point, Julie, that actually the actual outturn is highly dependent on where we are with the CapEx.
Yeah, and I think we, at the end of this, or at the end of the quarter, we will do a review of that.
Yeah. I mean, I think in looking at it, based around when various bits and pieces of projects are done, and some of your big projects, can affect that. So it will be going into the 9-year plan that actually our projections are firmed up. And actually that we deliver to them. It's actually, Tracy, it was something we talked about before. It's actually the funding. It's also important as far as that's concerned, because it's affecting us there. Definitely. That's really helpful. Thank you, Miles. Is there any other question for Miles at this point? So I just want to reflect one thing, which is really important. If you go to page 96 of your agenda, can't help but always look at the bottom box, which is our cost of funds, which at 30 June was 5.91. That's what we're talking about reducing. Even though we'll be taking on more debt, that's going to, the idea is to protect ourselves to make what we do get cheaper. So that's actually really
just from that change, what was the figure? Was it 1.6 or 1.8 million? You said the difference just before.
1.6.
1.6.
So that's 3%.
3%.
Yeah.
So a reduction just with that.
So you're going to go from 6%. Oh, you're talking about the inflation rate?
No, I'm talking about our rates that, because the interest charges flows directly into rates for the community.
Oh, sorry, you think
1.6 is the equivalent of 3%.
Yeah.
Well, there goes.
Now, I've just got can I just ask a couple of quick questions which I think are relevant? The affordable would have done well in the rear. Again, I might have some future thought. Are you looking to collaborate with councils around you?
So, I mean, maybe the mayor can talk with this, but politics involved in there. We're working as a region to see if there is options for collaboration. And this council, and the clear direction we've got is we're open to any type of collaboration. The reality though?
Yeah, the reality was pretty brutal. I'm in a position now where I can't talk too much about water policy, but I would say from our perspective, there is a high risk that we will wind up being an orphan. But I think if we're an orphan, we're going to be an orphan amongst 20 or so orphans. So that's not going to be a situation that is sustainable. So something else will have to, I'm sure, be looked at. So from our perspective, we are and will continue to be talking to absolutely anyone that's contiguous, non-contiguous, at a level of service of procurement all the way up through to a totally shared model. We are open for any cordial, but I think the doors are slowly closing around us, or we're certainly, they might not have been slammed shut, but it's
recent modelling with Selwyn put an offer out to a number of councils. Are you interested in collaborating? So we were one of them. People shared the numbers as they knew them at the time. What's come back from PwC and the work on that is out of 160,000 connections, which is what this modelling was done on, it's not, you would breach not only the 5%, 500% revenue to debt, you'd go over 600%. And that the increase in that year where you have to have financial sustainability, 2028, that it's a 300% uplift for most councils, or even more in terms of the cost of water. And even Selwyn, who is so proactive, just looking at it, says, look, we would never be able to get this over the line in our council with this level of uplift what you need the big cities to make these sorts of collaborations work. And that's probably just not there at the moment.
One of the challenges of looking at the model at the moment is not all councils have done long-term plans, and so some of the information from some of the councils might have quite a robust 10-year. We had done that analysis last year. A lot, probably about half haven't done those, so that the numbers for those councils are much higher than they will be once they go through rigorous scrutiny.
One thing to get to, I'll finish in about 2 minutes, is that Department of Internal Affairs are very keen for, no matter if you're going alone or if you're going to collaborate, they want it to be in a CCA water. They don't want it to just be continued in-house the way that it is. If you are going it alone, they actually wanted it in a CCA. And then that will have its own challenges because of the CCA funding. But the good news is that the LGFA have indicated that they will want to fund it, and are very keen to fund it. We've just done a sort of a one-page information memorandum on what we know of these affordable water reforms. I'll send it to Saskia and we can circulate it to you. We've set up about 5 CCOs just in the last year with the council, so we are in a position to do it. And my last point is, Saskia, is it right if I bring for 1 minute just what we've been talking about recently with Pitch?
Oh yes, absolutely, that would be good. It was on my list if you weren't going to say it, so thank you, Miles.
I've been talking to Saskia. With your debt levels, it's very likely you'll breach your debt to revenue covenant, which if you're an unrated council, is a debt shall not exceed 175% of revenue. And is it this year or next year you're breaching it?
Next year, based on current predicted capex, which as indicated in this meeting, we might not quite reach, but yeah, based on the budgets in the following financial year.
Next financial year.
Correct.
Next.
Yeah. So what we've been talking about is getting a credit rating, because if you get a credit rating, it increases that debt to revenue percentage from 175 to 250%. Sorry, 280%. I think it's 290 at the moment, or 285. It's coming back down to 280. It costs $60,000 to get a rating, and it costs $55,000 per year thereafter to maintain it. So it's $60,000 in the first year, including getting it and having it the first year, $55,000 thereafter. That's with Fitch. They're slightly cheaper than Standard & Poor's. It does lower your borrowing cost for new debt, because depending on what rating you get, you can save somewhere between 0.1 and 0.15%. That's on new and rollover debt. It's not retrospective. It doesn't apply to existing debt. But it is necessary to avoid that breach.
And just to add, thank you, Miles. They're based out of Sydney, or the person that we're dealing with, and Paul and I have got a Teams meeting set for next Thursday to get that ball rolling.
With the credit rating.
Correct. Yes.
And I have put CODC in touch with Fitch. I will do it with S&P. I've got a preference. Is this a public meeting?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, don't worry about your preferences, Miles, might be wise, but okay, so I mean, essentially the decision has been made to go for credit rating. I mean, essentially it's a cost benefit trade-off. It's the 60 plus 55 plus 55 versus the interest rate cost. And we're getting to that level, aren't we? We're actually
what I'll do, Saskia, I haven't even thought about this day. We've just recently got a new model, and we can actually model the cost benefit and see how long it will cost you money for, and then when you come into the positive. But that's it for you. It's a secondary consideration. The main consideration is that you don't breach the debt to revenue covenant that the LGFA implies. So I've got.
No, I think it's actually really important, given we would previous paper you heard us talk about was the long-term plan. And again, this comes back to the hygiene factor and the tidiness with which we can predict and manage our future, including our funding flows. So it's actually it's been well worth spending that time. So yes, look, it would be good. I take your point, it's secondary, but it would be good just for, I think, councillors' points of view to see the cost benefit and payback time, which would make sense. would be good to see that, Miles. Would be great. Well, thank you for that. I wonder if we could move to the recommendation, which is that you received the report and appreciate and pass our thanks on to you, Miles, for being here with us today, which is always appreciated.
Thanks.
I'll move from the chair to the seconder, please. Thank you, Tracy. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? It's carried. But say it was carried before I answer any negatives, but I assume there's no negatives.
That's right. The only other question I've got is, some sort of crime crackdown in Alexandria at the moment, because I think in 5 minutes, and I hope it doesn't sound noting, we've just been in Japan on 2 weeks for holiday. I saw more police cars in Alexandria in 5 minutes than I saw in Tokyo in 5 days. Driving around, I think it's some sort of crime crackdown.
Don't know what that is.
Might be seeing my driving habits. We do need to take a break, and I think we probably should for 10 minutes. I just wonder if we should. We do have a couple of items, I've got a lot of items to go before we get to non-public, but I think if we could have a break, and I would be keen that we motor through at some speed. They're all good items, but also pretty clear reports. So if we could take a break now for 10 minutes and reconvene, that would be valuable. Thanks. Thanks, Miles. bad. Sorry about
Good to go.
that. So we will keep just looking on. I would be, I don't think we will make up a lot of ground, but we treat these all quite seriously. Just drinking water compliance, there goes a great topic we can spend a lot of time on, and we will spend the relevant time on it, Julie, and with you and your team. So can I invite you to talk to your paper, please?
What's your compliance and customer team? And Duncan McKins, who is recently taken on the role as board operations manager. Internal appointment to the role. So
Yep, and so I think the report is read. The drinking water quality assurance rules came into effect in November 2022, and they introduced a far more stringent level of monitoring and reporting than was previously required. 2023 was the first full year of reporting under the new rules. Although largely compliant against the health-based drinking water standards, a review of the 23 compliance has identified some non-compliances that similar across all suppliers. Thank you. Questions?
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I would just say one of the challenges we've had is that we implemented a piece of software and the knowledge that we don't have to build this reporting that goes in and takes that information from our SCADA systems around the monitoring and then provides it in a form. And there's been some challenges in the implementation of that software. We were doing it at the same, there's two pieces of software available for us in New Zealand, and pretty much every council in New Zealand was rolling this out at the same time. The package we bought was originally owned by, the company was owned by Watercare, and they subsequently sold that company, and through that sale there was changes with staff at the same time as a huge demand was coming on. And when I was in Hamilton last week, I think every single one of their customers was lined up at their drug session, give them feedback on for rollout. So they are well aware of they've had a meeting with Duncan last week about what needs to be done.
Thank you. Any other, well, sorry, not any other questions. Do we have questions for the team here, please, to start off with?
I think the other thing we put in is we have appointed the treatment plan. We've also appointed, since this report was written, the automation engineer to the role, and he will start in February, so that will also help with. You can see in the report the demands for collecting data through our telemetry systems has just gone for a year, and our systems are not set up, and even our internet capability in some of the locations isn't good enough to get the kind of data that we need to be. So there's quite a lot of work that needs to be done on those sites to get that addressed. So that automation engineer will enable us to ensure that what we're putting in is the right thing for that location, that it's got that electrical component that's needed as well, and that can talk to the software that we use to visualise that code.
Brilliant. Do you have questions for the team here, folks?
I did, Bruce, if I may. Couple of things. Firstly, I note in the Ranfurly numbers, you say how many days boil water notice was in effect over the last 12 months or whatever. It's really handy to have that metric from a risk and a political level, because people come to us and say, I've had a boil water notice for 20 days this year, and you go, well, actually, no, you haven't, because people often exaggerate or remember different to what it is. But also, if those numbers are getting high, it's good to have it right in front of us to go, actually, that's. And the only other thing is, I noticed from sort of around about page 118 on, a lot of the tables have cut into the wording. The formatting hasn't worked, so the reports they're very, very technical anyway, and most of them, I'll be frank, I didn't fully understand, but we'll still note that's just impossible for us to.
Our intent was to demonstrate the scale and the level of reporting that's required.
You achieved that, and that's good, because as I say, honestly, a lot of it was
And they're hard to read on these computers as well, these reports.
Yeah, and it's just, it does kind of tie into when we come to you and say we have to spend money on this or that, or the system, or a person, but it kind of makes into all of this stuff. And if you never see what we provide, you understand.
Thank you.
That's the point I was trying to take out of it, was actually what are the implications? Like, look, there probably are one or two questions which I won't ask, which are more confidential around the contract of Lutra, but I presume you're in the same camp with everybody else, and you're, I mean, the paper makes it absolutely crystal clear. We need the whatever the software does. Well, actually, no, we need to have it. So that's absolutely essential. What I perhaps was trying to get at then was the received service on the ground. There still seems to be substantial physical upgrading, not just of the telemetry, but the actual systems that we have for water treatment, correct?
So, so Cromwell is getting significant, we're building.
I see that, yes, yeah.
And actually, like next Christmas, which next month, construction tools, that Kelly Robert and Rainford ones we're currently working through, and a lower cost option at the moment for those that will be bringing. I would expect we will be bringing to council before Christmas with the intent that they'll be installed early next year. So within this financial year, unfortunately, none of ROI's reporting period is from 1 January to 31st of December, so it will mean next year's still going to be non-compliant. But the following year after that, we will have the proposal and on those supplies. Yeah, and what we will do is we will do a summarised table of here's the actual actions that we have to take, and here's our progress against those actions. So we don't have all of those tables there. But we did make this a regular report that we put up to council every couple of months, and obviously quarterly into audit and risk that shows progress against those actions.
We'll need I'm going back to the ID system, the Lutra system.
Yeah.
We'll need that to be in place to be able to prove our compliance, aren't we? So, I mean, apart from the physical construction of having the right assets, even if we have the right assets, we still won't be able to prove it until we've got this in place, correct? Yeah.
And so we are putting an estimate on the trip to have that in place so that we can do it in January. Bearing in mind every other council will be doing the same thing, but and we had trouble, we might have to look at whether we pull the contract and go with the other supplier.
I presume Tomato ROI, sorry.
They are aware.
But I presume Tomato ROI must be aware of this and that it's a central issue rather than central target.
So even when we were approaching the deadline for the 23 annual reporting, we did a notification to Tomato ROI, and Lutra had also been in direct contact with Tomato ROI and let them know that they wouldn't, the councils they were representing, they weren't going to make the deadline.
Okay. And this also presumably an impact for our reporting under our annual report. And the required information we've got in front up to Lutra over, correct?
Yes, so it doesn't affect the last year. And that my understanding is that the legislation for reporting BID 3 is going to influence changes in the requirements to the mandatory reporting, measure reporting, to align it more with this. We're not quite sure to what level it's going to go down to, because we would think that it's not going to go into those level that it will be rolled out. But so certainly for the current year's annual report, it had different tables put into it than what it currently had in the thing.
But I'd like to invite you, I guess it's also a request, Julie, that we keep our eye on this going forward. So we've got a meeting on the 6th of December. I'd love to, could I ask, actually, I'd almost like to know what are the steps that you've got to do to get this whole thing resolved? Because, I'd like to say, so when do Lutra deliver? Have you got a date in mind? I mean, that's really what I'd like to know.
Yeah.
And then, your services engineer comes on February, but that person needs to have time to work with it and get it right. So it's a sense to which I think it would be helpful if we could see when does this get resolved and what are the steps that lead to that. That would be useful for us to monitor.
We did it for our wastewater compliance, so we walked on this and it just said, this is a piece of work, this is what the cost is, the fund that's been allocated, this is what it's going to be delivered, and then we comment on the progress.
That would be helpful. I think it would be good. Thank you for that. Any other questions for the team here? No? In that case, can we go to the recommendation, which is that we receive the report, noting its significance, and we recommend to Council quarterly updates be provided on progress to achieve the improved compliance. Perhaps really, I'm just reflecting here, that's a step sense of actually what can be achieved by when, which gives us that sense. If we could add that, we don't have to add that to the resolution, but it makes sense, Julie. Move second. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you. Motions. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, it's carried. Hey, thank you, you guys. You've had to wait a wee bit to get here and have a chance in front of the table, so I do appreciate you waiting. That's
So received the water notice. I agree with you.
To know, yeah.
To good. Could we get even if it's just something a quarterly effect?
Because it's great that we.
In the report.
Yeah.
We just say compliant, non-compliant, we don't report.
Oh.
It's really good. We do get them, conserved water notices in place and so forth, but just to have it in one place that we can go to and go, hey, is where we're at.
Yeah. Because people tend to exaggerate. They've been on a board water notice for months. That's what I get.
We get not at the moment because we use that for business case development and that as well, so it's informed information.
Okay, thank you. If we could keep that going, that would be great. I am conscious that we need to keep moving. So, Dylan, I think it's Derek.
Yes, so
Derek, yeah, nice to meet you, buddy.
Have Derek with me, so he's the brains behind this. So obviously, emergency management, it sits within my portfolio. And one of the questions that Audit and Risk had asked was what were the learnings had come out of North Island events and what we've been able to apply to ourselves. So Derek will run through a bit of that. It is, I guess, our general situation and where we find ourselves at as an emergency management team. So,
thanks very much, Ben. Thanks for hearing us, and just acknowledging my colleague Jackie Lambeth's online. She's unavailable to make us in this morning, so she should be online to make. She's had a significant contribution to our year. We very much consider it today, along with the CODC, ELT and the staff. We've got a bit of a page, bit of a speech we'll just run through first, then just a wee bit of just a couple of sort of headline talking points really, if which we can drill down on depending on, and here we go. Look, without any specific brief, can I please just give you an overview into our structure and operations within the Central Otago District Council area of responsibility over the last year. Locally, there's 1.5 full-time equivalent, being myself full-time, and Jackie, who shares herself between CODC and Upper Clutha. Jackie's pretty valuable because she's a long-time local. She also lives rurally, and she's got a foot in both camps, which is completely CODC and QLDC. And we know fully well that events don't respect territorial boundaries. And just to put this into context, actually, Dylan and I've just sat through a Met Service severe weather briefing to do with the red rain warning for Dunedin, where they're talking about a 1 to 200 year event. Sort of checking off now whether it gets to that, and a specific question just to ease the Mayor's mind and Peter's is that they don't think it'll penetrate too far along, but in middle March may be the Manio may have some effect. So we're monitoring that, and there's an ECC stood up in the evening. Jack and I feel very well supported and importantly enabled by Dylan and the CODC ELC. We fit into a inland civil defence team, which consists of both the QLDC CODC. Our team leader, she apologies, she was intending to be here today, but waylaid by the activities she's probably driven to leave in this respect. We are very well aware of what happened in the North Island, those rain events there, and we're by no means smug or complacent about it, because there but for is our view. The subtropical ex-cyclone could easily get cut across the central South Island as opposed to the northern tip of the North Island. We fit into that wider civil defence team based both in here, coastal and our group. And often these reports that have come out of the North Island event, that some of them have actually languished on shelves historically. But I do feel that, from understanding from our group control, that there is significant drive to actually move forward with implementing some of the responsibilities, and not just lessons learned, it's going to be work on lessons applied, which I think is way more important than just learning the lesson, actually applying the lesson. That's been done more at a regional and national level, but with working with Dylan, Anthony and myself, we've picked out some of the preemptive focus around driving the message preparation down to its right down to the individual and family unit, and also within the council, within the council staff around which case scenario preparation. Also, have to acknowledge that through the Jerry Mataparawai's government before, that there were significant shortcomings within the CEDM response, and so we own that as part of that sector, and so we feel that by prioritising preparation around that we can actually work on that and be better prepared. If and when something happens, it's not so much a preparation, it's a preparation we're still going to take a hit, no matter about that, but it's how we're going to recover, how we're going to deal with it and then recover. So there will still be a significant hit with it's both with the flood events or something like that. One of our biggest challenges is we know that we work in a environment which is competitive around funding. We have no issues with our funding. We think we're adequately funded, or say well funded, in case somebody needs a raise around. But one of our biggest things is it's a continuum in staff. Our most valuable asset is our people, and that staff training is valuable. Also competing for time and availability and release of those staff, and we haven't had a significant problem with that. And if we do, we work through that. We've got a solid core of people that support us, actively support us, and they'll be the ones that we rely on in activation. There's staff turnover, which is a challenge for everybody. That intellectual property within the council is still important. It's a building thing, is really good. But as without abdicating our responsibility, we try and get the community ready, and we try and make them realise about how they need to be ready. And if they're all ready, then everyone takes that step forward or two steps forward together. Just an indication of how unprepared we may be is going around some of the emergency services, some of the volunteer agencies, and several of the staff of one of the volunteer agencies wasn't aware of what AF8 was. We need to do some more. Yeah, so we need to do some more work there. So work on that. One of our biggest wins this year is a program which Jackie led on Clued Up Kids. So this was, just to give you a brief thumbnail sketch. It's sort of like speed dating for year 6, disaster speed dating for year 6. Yeah, disaster speed dating. Anyone's involved in it. So 10 stations, with all the traditional services, but including things like dog control, the local youth group, Coast Guard, and then the children were bunched up into groups of 10, and you had 12 minutes to preach your message. David's dog actually made an appearance. Dog control started before. Yeah. Famous. famous. But it was very good. That's right. We surveyed the children beforehand and also afterwards, importantly afterwards, and some of the messages actually really got through them. And if you ever, if you can remember that, having to wear, the first, when we moved from seatbelt, from non-seatbelt to seatbelt, the message usually came from your children. And so we've got unashamedly got those children taking those messages at home around preparation. The fire service do it really well and get down, get what to get out, and we're doing a drop cover hold and that sort of thing. So that was Jackie did that, and we're going to repeat it again this year and go wider.
Have you got a plan to bring it to Cromwell?
Yes, here we are. We didn't get much of a response, but I think very much so the communication between teachers. We had a flatmate with a teacher, and she came back and said how really well it was received. So teachers talk, probably like counsellors and counselors and cops and that sort of thing. Yeah, so she said it was really valuable and worthy of time. So there's a bit that goes into it.
Yeah, that's the message from the Alex teachers.
Yeah.
But it's just a capacity thing more than anything, like.
Yes. So we aim for sort of that May sort of thing after the school camps.
Yeah.
Everyone's got there's the most of the stat holidays have gone, the Easter's gone, the school camps have gone before the ugly sort of winter side of things. So we aim for that. So thanks for the support from there. One of the biggest things is actually getting the children there.
Mm-hmm.
So the Alex will be on the co, they all their kids, and a lot of the kids in Alex walked. So we're going to push that out wider. It could be a little problematic for them, photos, that sort of thing. But next year it's aiming to be in a problem. Jackie's on, I'm sure, the school in and down. Look, one of the other things that have come out of our discussions with community, and I'll touch on community engagement shortly, is that we're trying to manage expectations realistically, again, without implicating our responsibilities. There is no standing army of civil responsibility management. There isn't a massive arena in New Orleans, New Orleans like with cots and mattresses and generators and that sort of thing. And a general question that we get there is why? Why isn't it? Why isn't it we have full of mattresses and generators and that sort of thing? Yeah, wouldn't it be ideal if there's a police station on this corner, a fire station on that corner, a rescue helicopter on that corner? So we are balancing our risk. We're accepting a certain degree of risk, and we're mitigating some of that, and we're accepting some of it. I think we're pretty good, and again, driving that message into the community. Sims has cropped up a huge amount of times in the reviews. I'm a big fan of the coordinated incident management system. It's about to go through another review, and I think there's some sharp people on there that are going to sharpen it up for us. One of the criticisms from the Sugeri report was that it was hard to navigate. It was complex and hard to navigate. And I can probably understand that, but I think it's a system which we need to back and keep going on. We do have the courses on coordinated incident management. We've got 2 levels of courses. We're going to do a 2-day course, Sims 4, which is really valuable. But we've also got a less formal 3-hour course, which Sims Basic. So it gives you, it doesn't so much give you the how, it gives you the why we're doing things, which I think is really important. So if we're asking for information or resources or something like that, you understand where you fit into that big picture. So I think it's that why that significantly helps people step forward and assist us and do things for us. On those courses, we've had elected officials, so thank you to at least 2 of the staff in the room, the captain in the room, that have contributed to that. It's more later on. We've also, it's not just counter stuff, which are our core, because we do get funded to train them. We think it really enriches those courses, and so we try and have a couple of police friends. We've had Fulton Hogan, Peter Porphyry, on community patrol, St John's, Susan Rescue volunteers, the incident controls within there, and these will enrich those. So if you are aware of any of those courses going, especially that 3-hour one, It's short, it's sharp, I think it's focused and it's catered. So it does really help us bring that team together and understanding how we work, how emergency services work, and how the community volunteer groups work. Just moving on, and unless there's any questions on that sort of overview, we have a management platform called D4H. We were deployed to Auckland last year. They used email and Teams, which didn't quite work from both an auditing point of view and an operational point of view. Whereas I think D4H is a better system. We run very short, sharp training sessions on that. It's quite intuitive, actually. Even I can sort of get my head around it. Okay. Yeah. Computers don't make decisions for us. People make the decisions. So we don't want everybody buried in a computer. We want a champion within each function or one or two. So that we're catching those decisions, we're catching those actions, those action points and the like. But it's, we need to realise that, and I think we do, people make the decisions to the collective experience. So I was speaking about the genuine community engagement. Jackie, I'll take any opportunity at all. Some of the more bizarre ones in the last wee while is not that bowling clubs are bizarre, but bowling clubs, vintage car clubs, we've been spoken to, scouts clubs, university of the third age, and again, police, fire, defence volunteer agencies. We're working with Bobby Lamont, who's the area manager. We've all got themes about getting around every volunteer station just to give them a snippet into Sims and AFA. Again, that community response groups are a big part, especially in Wakatipu. There's about 17, so they are essentially groups solely come together around responding as partners for us within if a community is cut off. And Sally leads the Roxburgh one, which has recently been formed as a result of a public meeting. Sarah, I think you might be involved in Cromwell as well. Yeah, so they're very good. I do try and focus that they might not be activated for literally years of their life. So we do try and aim for things like hall committees and that, which we've got OMA code, so that the committee there that's working around the fundraising for the hall and the community there, they will be hopefully a de facto community response group because they've got another focus. We've got that longevity. They're not just waiting for something to happen. So we bolt onto them, very much sort of showing property sort of type thing because they're going to keep going over it. The same. They've got a whole committee. Nasby's got Nasby Vision and that sort of thing. And in all those communities, there's significant risk. The Manahira Care for Care and OFA, and then the forest. The forest in Mansbury. Well, I'd like to think we've had a good relationship with our interagency partners. Also forgot to mention earlier, Fulton Hogan, perhaps, and Whenua. Both have been to our trainings and we have semi-regular meetings with them. I mentioned before our kids, elected members. There's always, to be fair, a few years ago, it was I wasn't exactly sure how elected members working with emergency management, but I'm fully comfortable. The more we have that discussion, everybody has that place, and especially about public reassurance. And the buck probably isn't going to stop so much with myself or Dylan. It could be some other head on the lines or so. We need to enable whoever that person is, and again with the mayor, is around that, so that we tell us and Dr. General, we think there's a team approach to that. So for the good and for the bad, those kids covered. Iwi through my town who have without problem have offered us emergency lock boxes for vulnerable communities. So we've taken that up. These are very, very similar, strikingly similar to what we, the CODC and Central Lakes Trust, combined to produce and give to communities. So they've got a small generator, some handheld radios and that sort of thing. So there's about $6,000 there, and we've just received one which is here at the moment, which is going to Waipiara Community Response Group. Just trying to secure a place for it. And there's two have gone to Makaroa as well, Upper and Lower Makaroa. That's probably it, but we're on a continuum. And part of that continuum is our annual exercise, which is on the 6th of November. It's a multi-agency exercise involving AF8 and day 5 of AF8, which is posing zone challenges.
Is it will be on?
Is that sorry?
The week will be by day.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what
yeah,
it's decided.
Yeah. And if in that scenario, actually, COVC played a significant part for air bridging and then around from our airport from fast moving consumer goods coming in from the east coast, potentially through the pig route, through road transport, and then the airfield being. And I know that the NZDF have done some exercises there in the past that have worked very well. YSL exercises, is that what they used to be called? They sort of stay out and 7:30s and that get in there pretty well. So we're working around that. One of our planning officers and the meeting is going to be working with us through with the property team and Dylan around just firming up on our capacity and what's it on. Yeah, so that's annual exercise. Well, Fiona, did you see?
Yeah.
Excuse me, Dylan, I'll be rude. We allowed 10 minutes.
Oh,
tonight. We're sort of drifting here.
Yes, sorry, be super quick. As a outcome of COVID, there was a group set up with the Central Otago's leaders group, which was kind of heads of social agencies, but also business and other support agencies. We've kept that group going somewhat informally, but I guess we can pull on it when we need to. So it's just getting those relationships going. And I suppose a reflection on one of the big things coming out of the North Island events was there are a lot of people sitting at computers watching information come in, data points, whilst also receiving calls from the field of the community saying the river's broken its banks, and people sitting at a screen saying, no, it's not, that's not what the data's screen is telling me. It was just an example. DB saw a report on a screen, walked out there about 20 minutes ago to go check where the water level was at, right? So we don't just rely on a data point on the screen. We'll get information from our communities. That's what those community groups are about, as well as the practicality of it. So
that's really helpful. And I'm sorry if you feel like we were cut off, but
no.
Derek, I'm very deeply appreciative. When I do work around the country and talk about what really counts, this area remains high in local government. So it's very useful. We do have time for some questions. If folks want to make comments or questions of Derek or Dylan while they're here. One of the things that
I've got one.
Let's go for it, Tana. Thank you. Good to know you.
Thank you. You'll be surprised, but I have a question in the segment. With the rain event warning in Dunedin and the fact that you can see the flood banks from where you are sitting and they appear to be probably higher than your seat, what is the plan for us if that building that you are currently in is compromised? I know that a building up at the airport in conjunction with museum storage has been on the wish list for a while, but I guess what's our plan in the meantime?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Tana. Look, I think the airport would be sort of biblical flood type thing. I think if we can use the facilities at Central Stories, Community House, they're low down. If we get a flood of that significance, then they could also be affected. Then just staging up to maybe the high school gymnasium. What we're looking for is potentially Wi-Fi. And the Molyneux Stadium. So Wi-Fi, toilet facilities, catering facilities, and that sort of thing. We did have a short discussion there last week with the property around building a purpose-built facility at the airport or something that could be. I don't think we need that. I think we'd be scrambling for funds that we don't need. It's sufficient within Alexandra. One of the things I am very aware of though is an AF8 event that there will be 2 significant floors because the gorge will be closed off. So Cromwell is as much as Queenstown has the Wanaka Islands, Wakatipu and Upper Clutha Island, then we would have Cromwell from Upper Clutha and a Central Otago Island. So we would need an incident management point for almost a mini EOC in Cromwell, and we think we've got that worked out hopefully with the new hall coming in the Presbyterian Church. So I think we have got those options, and we have definitely actively attended on to those. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
One of the comments from some of my friends out of Hastings, Derek, was don't limit your thinking about a disaster.
Oh yeah.
My equivalent of the Hastings committee said to me, Bruce, you have to double the worst case scenario and then add on, because that's what they faced.
Yeah.
Now, you know, their circumstances are different, but this also affects our insurance. The flood risk inside New Zealand is which is considered a secondary matter, is actually the dominant matter at this stage, albeit, I mean, I'm not disputing AFA, but that becomes a really important part. So it's interesting. You talk risk and mitigation, love it, and I appreciate that you're also thinking about some of the trade-offs in terms of where things are at. I would only encourage you with that. What's come out of Hastings Napier, that idea you double everything that you think of, and then add a bit more, because that's what happened to them.
Yeah.
And with the changing climatic conditions, it seems to make a bit of sense.
Yeah. And I think the other obvious risk for us, I already saying daylight today, but it's fire. And we were at an extreme level last summer.
Yeah.
Anticipate probably the same this summer. So
yeah.
One of the upsides, one of the downsides of significant spring rain is the growth for January, February, March, and August isn't that. And
that's fires.
And Tracy just alluded to how much rain that you was had out there, and it's really wet. So that longer days out the heat, we can get significant growth, which would be sort of a boon initially, and then potentially that risk of extreme. Couple of nor'westers.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that. We need to pass a short motion that we receive, and I think we should just notice a verbal report. Very happy with the verbal report from Derek with our thanks.
Notes here.
Thank you. I'd suggest you pass them around. It's good. So I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
I didn't actually get it.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Thank you. I think you did.
Yeah, absolutely.
All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, carried. Thank you very much. Can we move to the status report upgrade? We can take it as read, Julie. Can I go straight to questions? I suspect other people have seen this before. Eyes have been cast over. Was there any particular risk associated with these capital projects that you would want to know? Okay. Probably some questions. Actually, I deliberately drove past the Memorial Hall this morning just to make certain I could see what was going on there. Because I started to know what TNC was until I thought, of course, it's a town country, but I wanted to see where it was physically relative to the building. So that's fine. Okay, so there's nothing at the stage here that we should be worried about in terms of caveats.
Common Memorial Hall, I mean, in a week or two, they're out of the ground. That's de-risked once you come out of the ground.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's good. Okay, cool. Well, in that case, I'm going to be quick and say, can we therefore agree that we received this report? Can I move that? Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Tim. Motion, all those in favour, please say aye. Those against, it's carried. Thank you for that. Chair's report on it. Yes, I just wanted to reflect, actually it's a conversation while you were out, Tim. Change, which comes when significant people move. And we had a, I mean, honest, I'm not wanting to share this pre-meeting discussions, but just reflecting, change for good reason, by the way, congratulations. Thank you. But it's also just reflecting that broader risk that, as I said earlier on, I kept in front of us, which is the heads, not the headspace, it's actually the bandwidth issue. And we've talked with the long-term plan, we're dealing with water, and even Miles saying what DI might be saying about water, etc. There's quite a bit of challenge on there. So the criticality of managing ourselves as elected members and governors through a good but necessary point of change becomes very important. That's all I want to say. I don't know whether, Tim, there was any comment you want to make on that. You've told me the plans, I get it, it's all good. So I don't need to do that other than just, I think it's important to acknowledge that our risk, believe it or not, change means our risk profile changes slightly. And as chair, I just wanted to acknowledge that, knowing that actually we seem to have plans in place and things going on. Okay, I'm going to suggest that you actually receive my report. Do I have a second, please? Thank you, Tim. For the motion, those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, it's carried. Anything that members would like to raise at this point?
Well, Bruce, just briefly following on from what you've said, and it was risk that led me to this time. Once I decided, Linda and I decided, never really contemplated a fourth term, and that was going to be a final decision, then the time to go. Well, it's quite unusual for a mayor to do what I've done. I think it makes sense from a risk perspective that there will be somebody leading the LTP, because that situation is unusual too. And I've found it a little bit difficult in the last couple of meetings, having made my mind up not to come back for a fourth term to lead a discussion, knowing I'm not going to be liable for the consequences of it. So I'm quite happy to go now and let a leader come through to lead that. And one of the things that's made that decision much easier is the overall leadership around the table. We've got a fantastic council. We're very fortunate in leadership within that, who I'm sure is going to make a great mayor once the council have decided to do it as it is, to go forward. And just reflect that the Audit and Risk Committee, I think, began a couple of meetings before I became mayor back in 2016. I was automatically thrust into it, having never been in one before, and I thought, oh dear Lord, this is going to be dry. I've loved it. I've learned a huge amount about the engine room of the council. It's a crucially important function that this group holds, and I think we've gone a little bit from initially being the lifeboats on the good ship CODC into some, a little bit into the engine room as well, which I think is come under your leadership, Bruce, in particular. So I just want to thank the members, the staff that have made it surprisingly enjoyable, and just bow out. This will be my last time around this table. I first sat around, not this table, but in this room in 2008. So time to go. Time to go. So thank you.
Yes, I appreciate that. And let's just focus on the key message. The collective leadership is actually the strength of the table, rather than any one individual. So that goes back to my point. Any other comments folk like to make, Tracy or Sally, Sarah, Clemmer? No? Could I just again move from the chair that we received that group? I'd like to have a second to folks. Thank you. Tracy, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, this carried. Rightio, we have the governance report. Saskia, I don't know whether Wayne's not with us. I have had a look through the papers. I have looked at the forward work program. It makes sense. Feels like every meeting's going to be big. December's big as well, with the finalisation of the annual report, with the LTP being at a very critical stage where I think, given what we would think the committee should do, there's probably a fair bit going on there. Hey, that's what's in front of us, so I'm comfortable with that. Saskia, was there anything that you need to add to what's already in this paper?
Nothing to add, thank you.
Brilliant. So in that case, I'm going to move that we receive the report. Thank you, Sally.
Can I just comment just in the Audit and Risk give direction on the following policies, which is on page 162. I wondered if we could have that more in like a calendar or
good point.
or like item, even like Saskia's little timeline that she uses for the long-term plan, and it could have, or I don't know, it could be grouped into each audit and risk meeting that we're coming to, but rather than just all in one big list, I think it would be better.
That's a good idea. In fairness to Wayne, he's been pushing this out because I've wanted to have a look at the forward work program. That would be a really good enhancement. So Saskia, I wonder if you could just have a chat with Wayne about that. It's a very good point.
Noted. Yep. No problems. We'll get something sorted for the next meeting.
Thank you, Sally. I'll put the motion on as a favor, please say aye. Those against, it's carried. 6th of December. Is that 19 days before Christmas? Not the last meeting of the year, though, I suspect. Any of us. Okay, I think we can just note that. So I get to the motion to move into public excluded. We've got a number of items that are to go around the annual report. I think I've looked at those. They're all good reasons to go into public excluded. Can I move from the chair? Go do so. The secretary.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sally. Is there any discussion on that motion? I would like to pause in case this is taking a public out. I think it's for good reason. We're good. Motion all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, it's carried. Just we're meant to have a break. How are we going, guys? It's 12:31. Can we keep pushing on?
Yeah.
Okay, happy?
Yep.
Pass the resolution. Okay, cool. The minutes of 7th of June. Oh, are we?
Sorry, just through the chair, we just need to switch to the other teams. So those on Teams, we need to flick to the other link, just so there's no issues with live streaming or anything like that. So we'll jump in online to the other one.
Be right there. That's okay.